Quazi here, and today I want to talk to you about manifesting from a different place. In this week, I think I've found the perfect technique that really helped me through the week, and I want to share it with you today. It's about how you can harmonize the heart and the mind. Before I begin, I want to talk to you briefly about the linear and non-linear realm. David R. Hawkins, in his book Power versus Force, Truth versus Falsehood, he talks about how there is a map of consciousness, and collectively human level is at the neutral level right now, which is the level of 200, and it ranges from 0 to 1000. 0 being absolute unconscious and 1000 being the highest level of consciousness, where Jesus Christ, all the avatars, and other powerful beings reside. The human body can only tolerate up to the level of 1000, and moving from the level of 200 to 201 means that you increase tenfold, so it's a logarithmic scale. The human realm is constricted to the level of 1000. So Jesus Christ, even though known as the Son of God, he was stuck at the level of 1000 in human form. But archangels and God corresponds to the level of infinity, or the highest power that can ever be conceived. And archangels correspond to the level of 50,000, according to David R. Hawkins. Now, before I go further into the levels of consciousness, I want to explain to you the concept of a kinesiologic muscle testing. David R. Hawkins and his friend John Diamond, I think, came up with this. But essentially, the muscle testing method allows you to determine what foods are good for you and if your body is allergic or not. And before you even take the food, you can do a muscle test to see if you test positive for any allergic reaction. This muscle test can be used collectively to test true and false statements. You can ask yourself, oh, my name is John, and you can do a muscle test to see if your arm stays stiff. So what you do is you ask the subject a question, and you ask the subject to put his arm out or her arm out, and you put 2 fingers on the wrist to test first what the calibration is for the muscle. So you ask a true statement, which may be, oh, my name is John, when his name is probably something else, like Bob. Let's say his name is Bob. And you ask him, your name is John, and then you ask him to resist, and if he can't, the level at which you can put his arm down is the level of negative, so it tests as false. But then when you tell him your name is Bob, and it's a true statement, and his arm just stays up, no matter what. But this test can be performed for any question, as long as it's not connected to the self. So as long as there's no emotional attachment to the question, this test can be performed. So you can't ask for future events. So, oh, will I win the lottery? Or will I make this amount of money? You can't ask those questions. But if you want more information on the muscle testing, you can find it online. And in Power versus Force, David R. Hawkins goes on for first 2 chapters talking about the muscle testing. Essentially, if the statement calibrates below the level of 200, then it's a false statement, because 200 is the neutral level. You can also calibrate a human being's level of consciousness by that test. So you can ask, oh, I calibrate at the level of 200, and if it stays stiff, then it's true. I calibrate at 300, stiff, true. And then you go up until it calibrates as false. The level of 200 is neutral. Below 200 is associated with the levels of shame, guilt, apathy. Apathy being the lowest level, where someone doesn't even have the motivation to put food in his mouth because he may be so tired of life. Or that's the lowest level of consciousness. But going up from 200, 300 corresponds to the level of inspiring, 350 to merciful, and 500 corresponds to the level of love, and love being unconditional love. But When we get to the level of 600, that's when you reach the enlightenment stages. And there are a few handful of people, Buddhist monks and other Eastern, maybe even Western, but a very few handful of people who have reached the level of 600, which is the level of enlightenment. And in this level, you operate from a non-linear realm. So there is no longer cause and effect, and event A equals event B equals event C. A didn't cause B, B didn't cause C anymore, because it's no longer linear. So at that level, you start perceiving things as coming from one source. So A came from the source, B came from the source, C came from the source. It's difficult for me to explain this concept because I do not fully grasp it, since I'm not at that level of consciousness, but David R. Hawkins has some videos. Essentially, we can sometimes tap into the non-linear realm, and the way to do that is by connecting to your feelings. Most of the time in life, when we want to manifest something, we're always thinking, when I get it, then I will feel the emotions. So this becomes conditional. But the way manifesting works and visualizing works is that you feel the emotions first. So you feel the feelings first and live your life as though you already have the thing, and then it follows. So this is operating from the non-linear realm because you're already assuming the outcome, and then the outcome follows. So everything is coming from the source. Apart from that, you can't always operate from a non-linear realm, because in everyday life, when you go to work, there is a linearity to things, and human beings at the collective level of consciousness of 200, we are only able to perceive the linear realm. Thus, we can't make use of the non-linear realm. And in the linear realm, A equals B equals C, and you can't just go to work and go up to your boss and say, no, I don't want to do this because everything is non-linear and A doesn't correspond to B, doesn't correspond to C, it all comes from the source. So when you're building an assembly line, you can't just make the tires first because there's nothing to keep the tires there. One way to get in touch with the non-linear realm is to be very in touch with your feelings and emotions. And I've talked about how important it is to be in touch with your emotions when you're trying to manifest, to feel the feeling as though it already is, because the feelings allow you to bridge it from the mental to the physical plane, the spiritual to the mental to the physical plane. There is one really interesting technique that I've learned this week from Greg Braden, if you look him up. And what he does is, there's this technique for harmonizing the heart and the mind. And when you harmonize the heart and the mind, or the heart and the brain, you start to emanate a very powerful magnetic and electric field. And in science, we attract things by the fields we emanate. So magnets emanate a field which attracts the other magnet of a different polarity. And electric fields work in the same way too, positive and negative charges. But little do we know that human beings are able to emanate their own magnetic and electric fields. And once you switch your awareness from the mind, from the brain to the heart, you are capable of attuning to extremely powerful magnetic and electric fields. So the brain's electric field corresponds to a very low level compared to the heart's. The heart's electric field is 5 times more powerful than the brain's electric field. And the heart's magnetic field is 5,000 times more powerful. So if you can utilize these powerful fields, imagine what is possible. And over this past week, I've been using this exercise which allows you to harmonize both the heart and the mind. So I want to share that with you today because it was life-changing for me, and it just makes you can instantly feel the differences. Okay, we will now begin to connect to the heart and the mind, and we'll begin to harmonize it through this very simple but primal exercise. This was done by all cavemen and our ancestors in times of hardship, and it It's very simple, but that's why many people would doubt it. But because it's so simple, it makes sense. Because the human being, the human nature is meant to be simple, and we just overcomplicate things. So here we go. Before you begin, touch your heart. Now, it doesn't matter how you touch it. I prefer to touch it with my palm, so I can almost nestle it in my palm. And you don't necessarily have to feel the heartbeat, just as long as you place your hand on where you think the heart is. Now, take 3 deep breaths, and I'm going to do it with you. And feel the awareness going from your mind to your heart, the place where you touch in the body. Now the second step is to slow your breathing down. 5 seconds on the inhale, 5 seconds on the exhale. You can already feel the stress response dying down and the healing chemistry coming up. Now step 3 is to start feeling these 4 emotions, or a mixture of these 4 emotions in your heart. And they are care, gratitude for anything or anyone, love, and joy for anything or anyone. So when I think of care, I like to think about my family and how much I care for them, and my little sister who is autistic, and it allows me to really get in touch with my emotions. I just see her face and I picture her smiling, and I can just feel that care in my heart. And once you start feeling a mixture of these emotions, or even just one emotion, you start to resonate at 1 kilohertz, 0.1 kilohertz, which is the level at which you can maximize your magnetic field and electric fields, and also arise a lot of healing chemistry. Take 5 more deep breaths as you feel these emotions. Now this is a very primal exercise, and it's very powerful. Not only does it heal you, because you eliminate every single stress hormone, it convinces your body that you are safe and you are away from harm. So I like to do this exercise once every morning and once before bed, and the effects of it last 6 hours. And you can find more information at HeartMath, but I want you to slowly come back to reality right now and feel the emotions in your heart. As you can see, I'm already very relaxed. It has very immediate effects, but this process has helped me manifest very little things as of now, since I've just started using it a week ago, but it really works immediately. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope I helped you, and I hope you'll use this exercise every single day as I do. I've incorporated this into my morning and my night routine. I'm just so relaxed right now. Till next time.